She's best known for playing Angie Appleton in Corrie, and earlier this month, actress Victoria Ekanoye revealed that she's been diagnosed with breast cancer after discovering a lump while breastfeeding her then 6-month-old baby Theo. And I'm so pleased that you're chatting to us this afternoon, Victoria. I mean, at the time, before you knew what was wrong, that must have been hugely scary when you found that lump.
I'll be honest, I really cried a lot on that one day, and I hadn't told anyone anything at that point, because, you know, it's so many women struggle to breastfeed anyway, so I already knew and felt very lucky that I was able to do that. And obviously with your breasts, when they fill with milk, they get bigger, and this lump just kind of would protrude, and it wasn't even like I had to go and look for it. It was just there. You could see it really clearly, and my partner could see it as well. And I just was, you know, just getting on your feet after giving birth. So I guess it was just, you know, another mountain to climb, maybe. And then I thought the only way around this whole thing is to face it head on and go and get it checked and see, you know, what the professionals say.
But incredibly, you had to see 3 professionals in order to be able to finally get the diagnosis about what was wrong, because the first 2 times you didn't get an answer that you were satisfied with, and because you know your body and you knew something was wrong, you went to a third person, you went to an NHS doctor, and you finally got that correct diagnosis, didn't you?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, naturally, they're medical professionals, and, you know, you kind of just go with what they tell you. And to an extent, you know, we have to. That's what they're trained to do. But honestly, I just kind of went with my gut, and it just didn't feel right. And like you say, that third time I went, and they have an incredible service called the One Stop Breast Clinic. So you go, within 2 weeks, you see an appointment, you see a consultant, and at that appointment, they will do everything that you could possibly need. So I had a physical examination, an ultrasound, a mammogram, a needle test in my armpit in a lymph node, and 2 biopsies because a second lump had developed. So, I mean, it was a lot. It was really overwhelming. It was actually 4.5 hours that I was there. And I got really upset during the biopsies because I don't know, it sounds really pessimistic, which is quite opposite to the way I usually am, but I just kind of knew. And I knew then I'd have to tell people, and that's been the hardest part, has been telling people that I love and I care about, and I hate worrying anybody. And then I actually saw the consultant straight after all of this, and she said, we'd like to bring you back in a week's time to see our lead consultant, and we think you should bring someone. And that's, I guess...
Victoria, because I believe you're...
That's the moment when you...
Oh, sorry. There's a bit of a delay. I wanted to ask you, because I believe your mum and your aunt had breast cancer, but is it right that they didn't have the gene?
Yes. So they, my mum had breast cancer, and my auntie, and they were diagnosed in the same year, and they also had the testing for the BRCA genes, which they didn't have, which is crazy because I'm now the 5th person in my family to develop breast cancer, even though the gene isn't present. So although it's incredible that, you know, and there are so many incredibly lucky families out there that can have these tests done, and then they're just more informed and they can decide what they're going to do further down the line with their bodies and what that means for them. But for our family, we are one of those few families that have so much. It's, you know, it's so prevalent, so many instances of cancer in the family, but don't have the genes. So I think it really is about taking ownership of your own body and making sure that no matter what happens in your gut, if you don't feel right about something, go for that second, in my case, third opinion, because ultimately they're professionals and they're experts, but you're an expert on your own body. You're with it every day. You feel the changes, you know. And again, even with that, you know, I've spoken to so many women since people found out, and even checking your breasts at the right time, like it has to be monthly, because if it's every day, just like if you see somebody and their hair is growing, you don't notice it, and after a month you might notice that change in length. It's the same. You have to do it at, you know, enough of a time for you to be able to detect those changes, but also not too long that it can be a worse diagnosis. So it's very difficult to, I guess, work out what to do, but ultimately it's about listening to your body and going what feels right for you.
Victoria, I can totally relate, having been through stage 3 breast cancer myself, I can totally relate to what you were saying. It was bringing shivers up on my body. And I had a breast cancer in my right breast, and I had a mastectomy and a reconstruction, a 12-hour procedure. I believe you're having a double mastectomy. How easy was that? Because obviously not a lot of women are comfortable with that, but how easy or hard was that decision for you?
I'll be honest, when I went for the biopsies, and like I said, I kind of just felt that this was going to be the case, and I just don't want to look over my shoulder for the rest of my life. I don't want to have to worry about it. I've got a baby boy to love and live for, and a family and friends, and I just can't even begin to think about not being here for any of them. So for me, if I can eliminate as much risk as possible, then I will. And so that's what I'm doing. And yes, it's a more invasive procedure. Yes, it's a longer recovery time. But ultimately, if it just can take that large amount of risk away, it's just peace of mind. And it's really good as well for me, because it means, you know, for my mental health, I don't have to worry about it every single day, every time I go for that check once a year. So yes, it was a big decision, but for me, it was kind of one of the easiest decisions of this whole process, and one of the easiest parts, because although it's quite invasive, it's just, I don't want to go through this again. And with me having sickle cell, it's dangerous to go under the anaesthetic anyway, so they don't want to have to do that twice, which is why the reconstruction will happen at the same time.
Victoria, it's Gloria.
So,
as you may know, I sadly lost my daughter Karen to breast cancer. And
yes,
but
I'm so sorry.
If I'm being honest, she became the teacher in my case, because she had great tenacity and a great attitude. And even though at one point she had 1.5 years as a diagnosis, but she lived 7. And I get the feeling from you that you have a fantastically strong attitude, because tonight, for example, you're having a fundraiser before you even have your mastectomy. Now, that's a brave decision. How did you arrive at that decision?
I mean, these charities are incredible. So Prevent Breast Cancer is a charity that both my mum and I are patrons of. And Sickle Cell Care Manchester, I'm also a patron of, because they're, you know, as you know, very, very close to home for both of us. I just want to do what I can. And I feel like a big part of this was me acting sooner rather than later. Catching it as early as I can. It's a great prognosis. There's a great chance of coming out of this better than ever. And so for me, I want to do it now. I want to do what I can now. And if I'm talking about it and people have maybe found a lump or haven't, or aren't checking as frequently, then maybe it will make a difference. And if it's just one person, it's always nice to help just one person, you know. So if it helps more than that, then great. Plus, we're raising the funds. So it just feels like, why not? Why wouldn't I? You know, and I feel really lucky that for whatever reason I've been blessed with the platform that I have to be able to talk to people, and hopefully they'll hear it, and it'll make a difference for them in their life, and save heartache for their family, I guess.
I tell you what, Victoria, you are really hitting to the hearts of all of us on the panel, and I'm sure you really are for everybody watching. And as a mum to a young son, your young son Theo, I believe, is there with you in the room, isn't he? Are we allowed to have a look at little Theo? I can hear him knocking about ever so slightly.
He's hey baby, come here. Oh. Hey you.
Look at him. Oh,
Say hello.
Oh, it's beautiful.
Oh my goodness, how gorgeous is he?
He's looking at Daddy.
Now, Victoria, I know you sort of talked about where you get your strength from, but you know, your strength has got to come from little Theo. He is part of the reason why you are going to live longer. You will survive this.
I mean, like I said, how can I not do everything in my power to make sure I'm still here for him? As cheeky as he is, as boisterous as he can be, he's just our everything, I guess. And we'll do anything we can to give him the best life that he can have. Won't we?
Oh, Victoria, that's all we've got time for you today, but I'm going to try not to cry because you've been amazing. And there are so many people who will watch you talk to us, listen to your story, hear your words, and you really will have impacted people this afternoon. So thank you so much and good luck with your fundraiser tonight. Thank you.
Bye-bye, Theo.
Thank you so much. Take care, ladies. Thanks for having me. Bye, Raven.